Okay, folks, welcome back. We are here this evening talking about The Gathering Storm. Oh shit! It's the first of Brandon Sanderson's books. I think that first off, his little introductory blurb, preface about Robert Jordan and how he took on the role, and sitting in Robert Jordan's room at his writing table reading the ending. I read it every time. I do. I love that. Brandon clearly cared about this series before he walked in, and to me, his journey where he got to be a fan who got to write the end of the story, just like Rafe is a fan who gets to make the show. It's if either one of them ever wants to say it wasn't the beginning, there are no beginnings or ends to the Wheel of Time, but it was a beginning. They are absolutely entitled to say that, because for them that was a beginning in a way that few of us are ever going to know or understand. And in that way, they're kind of kindred spirits in leading the series forward into a new height and a new direction. That is always going to come with some, it's going to come with some bumps, some bruises, and some tribulation along the way. But that they are in a position to take this art and transform it and shape it and direct it, and that they're doing so, for Brandon, we already know how he did with it. He did an amazing job. He was incredibly respectful of the source material. For Rafe, technically, we don't know, but from everything I've seen, I feel confident that he is doing it the same way, that he's giving it the same sort of respect, love, attention to detail that it deserves. That's amazing. So, moving straight into The Gathering Storm here, there's a lot of excitement in this book. This is the book where we get Darth Rand. And Darth Rand is supposed to be a bad thing, and it is a bad thing. I'll tell you that up front. Rand is finally at a point where he has been beaten, scarred, wounded enough that he has, he feels nothing left to lose, nothing left to live for. He is, focused only on the goal and not the means to get there, and not the actual point behind the journey to that destination, right? And, of course, he gets disabused of this when Simmerhawk gets the domination band on him and forces him to almost kill men. I really thought it was going to happen. I thought they were going to kill men right there. It thankfully doesn't, because this is not Game of Thrones, and it's not a grimdark series, and I'm kind of grateful for that. The Wheel of Time as a show, something that I think that the show is going to have to deal a lot with. I keep saying as the show, but as a series, The Wheel of Time as a series is about the hope and strength and passion of people. It's about overcoming obstacles, not succumbing to them, not, a show like Game of Thrones is about the struggle, and it's about the grit, and it's about the horror of what can happen. And the A Song of Ice and Fire book series is as well. So, in a sense, the show captured that element of the books really well, though I will say it overemphasized it compared to the books. In the books, those events happen, but they're not just there for shock value. In the show, sometimes it felt like it was. Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson and now Rafe Judkins' Wheel of Time is much more hopeful. Yes, Rand goes through a dark, harsh journey to get to where he is, and it would be a disservice to his character if they didn't show that journey in painstaking detail, if they didn't show you every bit of hurt that he goes through along the way and paint it just as bleak and as hard on him as it is. But that's not what it's about. What it's about is overcoming that and finding the reason to overcome that, finding the strength, the hope, the camaraderie and kinship that allows you to fight through that sort of adversity and that sort of tribulation. And I think that gets most exemplified in A Memory of Light with the whole "that man still lives" sequence, or "that man still fights." I can't remember exactly what he says. I hate misquoting it because it's so important to the series. But, this is Rand's book. And I will say that when Brandon Sanderson first got into the character of Rand, it was a little off. People always fuss about Matt because that one stands out. Rand is also a little off. It takes him a second to get into the groove of things with writing these characters. Or maybe it's that due to the stylistic change, we just really quickly grow accustomed to these characters as... he did something neat. He did a neat writer's thing. He pulled in sequences that they had experienced in previous books and just kind of pulled out a noun and put in another one, and pulled out a situation and plugged it in and twisted a few things, so that way he could sort of write the same character and get himself on track. I like that Brandon Sanderson did that as a way to get his feet under him, because that's what a challenge it would be to write these books. But this is very much Rand's book, and the sequence where he does kill Simmerhog is amazing. I do love that he just immediately understood how to use the true power. Or is it the true source? See, this is confusing. There's one source, one power, true source, true power. The terms all get a little muddy, even for me at times. I think it's the true source. And the one power are typically how they're each referred to. But I love that he knew how to do it. Perhaps that's part of his connection with Moradin, which I've never talked about up till now. Oh, that feels wrong. There's a lot of stuff I haven't talked about. I was thinking about that earlier today at work. But maybe it's that. Maybe it is his memories from Luz Theron. Maybe it's the connection that he has where he's, touched the taint so much. I don't know. But Rand understood how to craft the true power very intuitively. And that's a point that's glossed over, but I always think about it when we get a sequence just a little bit later from Grendel's perspective, and she is trying to remember how to do certain things with the true power, and then later we get reminded of it again. Demon Dread is trying to remember how to look through the eyes of a bird, I think a falcon or something like that, during the last battle. And then when we get back to Rand facing off against the Dark One, he again intuitively knows how to use it. So it's interesting to me that Rand understands the true power more intuitively than members of the Forsaken who actively have access and experience with it. I don't understand the implication of that, but that is something that exists within the series. And there's probably a fan theory behind why that happens that way. Actually, I've never seen someone talk about it. I've thought about it. I've never made a post about it. And though I am somebody who has made a lot of posts, I'm not an especially popular member of the community. You know, like Jason got invited to the premiere, and Jason is Dragon Mount. He basically runs that website. And Jason knows Verbal. Verbal has like 200,000 posts. I know Verbal. Jason probably doesn't know me. You know, like those are big community figures who are, I assume, known to the Wheel of Time press team. You know, and when they say things, people want to listen. I'm not that. But sometimes I make a post and it'll get some traction. It's been a minute, admittedly. There's been a lot of life going on for the past few years. But that, I don't know why I just shared all that. None of that matters to anybody else. Okay, what does matter? What does matter? This is Rand's book, in my opinion, and I also think it's Egwene's book. More so than the other characters. Perrin, he's just kind of traveling. Matt is doing his own thing and getting back into the swing of stuff, and he's just kind of traveling, you know? We get the Hinterstap scene, which is just set up for something that happens in the last battle. I wonder if that was intentional. I never know how Brandon Sanderson does his plotting, because I've read a lot of Cosmere works. I've read some of his non-Cosmere work. At least I don't think that some of his YA stuff, like the one with the superhero kill squad, or the one with the girl that flies the talking spacecraft, I don't think those are connected to the Cosmere. But I've read those. He has this habit of setting up these ideas and coming back to them later, as a good author should. I mean, that's foreshadowing. But I don't always know, because the way that Brandon writes things, it's like that one convenient thing that you see at the beginning of a Tarantino movie, and then at the end the knife was in the exact right spot and the person grabs it. It's that kind of thing. So I don't always know if he's throwing these tools out here with the intention to use them later on, or if it was something that he wanted to write a sequence as, and then later on he went, well, I mean, I made this thing, so why can't we use this thing? Let's just use that. If that is the case, I think that's a really cool... I didn't see it coming in the last battle, but I think that Hinterstap was really a cool thing to throw in. I will say, people have this issue with Matt as a character in Brandon's first work, mostly in The Gathering Storm, and to my mind, it mostly comes down to his dialogue in that section where he is complaining about women. And that's our open to Matt. He's talking to Talmanes about it while he rides into A-Town. I don't even think it was Hinterstap. I think it was before that. But if you ever try to read that out loud, it goes on like 3 times longer than it should. Also, I'll quickly say here, Talmanes is sitting there going, indeed, Matt, yeah, really. And Matt's trying to figure out if he's laughing at him. That's because Brandon Sanderson changed Talmanes. Just nobody complains about it because he made him better. In short, you could say it like this. Sanderson is generally less subtle than Robert Jordan. And I think that is actually slightly to Nynaeve's detriment as well. because Nynaeve is a character that Robert Jordan intentionally was not subtle with. And as these other characters get less subtle, it sort of lessens the contrast that she has in a scene. But, of course, by this point, Nynaeve is acting more like an Aes Sedai. I think a bit more zen than Aes Sedai are, because it's ridiculous to not have emotions. It's kind of like when you watch the original trilogy for Star Wars, you don't really see any issues with the Jedi Order. But if you go on fan forums, they're talking about how, especially after you watch the prequels, here were the issues with the Jedi Order, right? You could go through the Wheel of Time and not particularly see issues with how the Aes Sedai run their organization at a surface level. You could just think, oh, well, these other factions are showing up and they're getting a lot less impressive. But if you delve into why, it's because their structure actually isn't sustainable. And, of course, we've got a canonical reason for that. We know that Ishamael has been making the Aes Sedai impotent for, 1,000 years. And the Black Aja is roughly a fifth of all the members of the White Tower. So it's no wonder that instead of logisticians, the White Aja are just people who say the word logic a lot. They're not focused on high-end mathematics, Instead of the Greys being the political faction of the world, sitting at the side of every throne, they just kind of let anybody do that, and they show up as sort of weak-end mediators who are proud of their efforts that self-admittedly don't go anywhere. The Red is actually the only one that takes the step in the right direction in the last couple of books, which I think is fantastic, because they recognize that if men are going to start channeling again, and if the corruption has been cleansed from the male half of the power, then they need to be the ones to bond and guide these men into a society where channeling is accepted through their organization. I think they're doing something great. But, that's in large part because all of the women who hated men also went to that Aja, and a good number of them turned out to be Black Aja. Maybe by coincidence, maybe Robert Jordan was saying that sexism's not okay, so, the ones that just hate men because men are bad are black, or I don't really know what the message is there. That got a little muddled. It would make sense to me that the Red Aja would naturally draw in women who did not like men, and I don't mean not like men in a sexual way, because that's pretty prevalent throughout the Ajas, actually. I think a bit underwritten. Robert Jordan, maybe that's a consequence of the times, but there were a lot of pillow friends and not very many open lesbians, which is, strange, I guess. In our society, it's a very small percent of the population as well, so maybe it's not that out of character, but surely there would have been a few, But no, I don't mean not like men in a sexual way. I mean people who have like sexist views of the world, and disparage another person because of their sex. So there were a lot of those in the Red Aja. Some of them were Black Aja. Maybe that's part of what allowed for the shift there. I don't really know. What I do know is that the White Tower was falling to fucking pieces in this novel. We have the Shan-Chan attack, obviously, which is kind of the ultimate consequence of that. We have Egwene being awesome, right? She's not even trying to take the White Tower down. She looks around and says, "This is a problem. I'm gonna make this my problem. I'm fixing this problem." and she just goes to work. And that girl has been beaten down. I haven't talked about how much I love her as a character. She has been beaten down more than anybody else in this series. She has went on a hero's journey for like 9 books at this point, and she just keeps getting up. That is the farthest thing from a Mary Sue. By the way, Madeline Madden is adorable. Whenever she met, I was watching Daniel Green meet everybody. Whenever she met Daniel and the lady who was there with him, who has the Twitter handle of Queen Alvear, she walked up to both of them and she went, "Mwah, mwah," and she kissed him on the, not on the cheek, the air beside the cheek. I don't really know what cultures do what there. I know some actually kiss, some kiss both cheeks, some kiss the air. I don't know all that stuff in our real world, but she kissed the air beside them, and then she was just so bubbly. It was really fun to watch her. I think she's gonna kill it. I really do. I really do. And I'm very excited to see her character growth. It is going to, oh man, it's going to be rough watching the end of this show. So, you know, that whole plot line that's going on is awesome. My son's middle name is Bryn. I'll tell you right now, his middle name is Bryn because I wanted to give an homage to the Wheel of Time, and there were a lot of names that I don't like in the Wheel of Time because they're usually pretty odd. Bryn just worked. And Gareth Bryn really never does anything wrong in this series, but he's kind of on my nerves in this book, if I'm being honest. He is following Swan, and their relationship / not relationship has been going on for a long time, but they're not yet bonded. But when he shows up, it's not because of him, to be fair. It's just that every time he shows up, we're usually in Swan's perspective, and it diverts things into like this weird romance that, do we really care? Do we really care? We're trying to get to the end of the Wheel of Time here. Let's speed it up, you know? So it was a relief once they finally got bonded. I don't think I've talked about Gawain at all in all of these. Gawain's not as bad a character as people make him out to be. He certainly acts like it with this book and the next one, but Gawain is a plot device which puts him in direct conflict with other characters that we do like, so that's part of why people hate him. I see his point in the story. Gawain is the character who is always second. That's something that you need that in a story. That's a dynamic that would be missing if it weren't there. I hate to tell you that if you hate Gawain, but that's true. Because, you see, first it was Galad, and Galad he's Prince Charming. He's straight up. He's the better swordsman. He's the older son. He is the, most attractive man, and every woman bats her eyes at him. And Gawain is a good boy, and he follows his brother around and loves his brother, and he follows his sister and loves his sister, and he's got a good personality. When we first meet him, bear with me, and he's just trying to do things right and be a good prince, which is what he does. And then he runs into moral conflicts, and he gets left out on his own, and he makes some bad decisions. So what's he do? He follows his heart, because he knows that he's good and he's just, and that he will do his best to do the right thing. And, in a lot of stories, Gawain would be a perspective character that we would have started the books with, and he would be the second son of a queen who was powerful, and then she'd disappear and he would need to step up. And it would be so easy for Gowan to be the main protagonist of a series. Just because of where his character is in life and the kinds of things that he does and the plots he gets caught up in. However, in this series, Rand al'Thor is the main character. So even when Gowan is out there trying to do big things to impact the world, he just doesn't matter. He doesn't matter to the audience. He doesn't matter to the readers. Hell, Egwene doesn't even let him be first in her own mind. This could not have been made clearer by Brandon Sanderson, who really understood what Gowan was as a character and what Robert Jordan was doing with him, because Egwene, in an argument with him, even says to him that you're jealous of Rand. You don't actually think he did these bad things, you're just jealous of him. And then we get the payoff with him whenever Morghese comes back. And he finally understands. You know, he reconciles immediately after with Egwene. That's all actually in the next book. But, yeah, folks, Gowan as a character is not as bad as you make him out to be. He does dumb things because he knows that he's supposed to be the good guy. And in most other stories he would have been. Just this story is an epic on a different scale than what his character is able to handle. So, he's always second. Yeah, that's kind of his character. Which is flat, by the way. Gowan is a flat character, to my mind. They tried to inject stuff into him. But this is a really cool book because of just because it was such a challenge to overcome all of the obstacles that got in the way of writing it, and that it actually came out with a good pace and interesting plot development, and that we're still juggling all of these threads and it doesn't really seal any of them off is amazing. I do dislike that after Rand kills Grendel, they retcon it in the next book, only to then have Shadar-Haran kill her again and reincarnate her into the body of Hasalam. That is fucking confusing, and there's no reason for it to be there. It would have been better to have just killed her. And I don't know. I mean, Grendel's a badass member of the Forsaken. I never understood if she was truly devoted to the Dark One or not. I know that she was not as devoted to him as she was to herself, but there's enough hints in here that Grendel is playing her own game to suggest that she doesn't even particularly really care about being a dark friend. There is, by the way, I haven't mentioned this a ton, the story is also keeping up with the threads with, you know, it's keeping up with all these other threads. It's keeping up with Aviendha, it's keeping up with Tom, it's keeping up with Aludra and, you know, Elaine, and it's just every character from the Wheel of Time has their own thread and development, and to try and take all of that on and make something of it is just beyond impressive. But you know, it's definitely not a perfect book. I think that due to some little nagging tweets with the characterization and a couple of weaker plot elements in this one, that I would say that The Gathering Storm is probably like, it's probably an 8.5 out of 10. I will recognize right off the bat, though, that I want to give it a 9. I want to make it higher. I really do. I want to give it a 9. And maybe it deserves 1. Maybe I should give it a 9. That ending when Rand loses his shit when he sees Tam. That ending is fantastic with the moment on Dragonmount, and I think Perrin shows up there, but we jump back in time so we see it from Perrin's side in the next one. Him banishing Cadsuane and giving her that line about call me Rand Sedai and telling her what a paralysis net is. That's amazing. Actually, her being banished this entire thing is really nice. It was just pleasant to see Cadsuane get some comeuppance. I also didn't talk about the biggest thing that happens in this book, which is Varen and her reveal. Oh God, that is such a good moment. It made sense to me for a long time that there would be a double agent, but I still didn't see this coming somehow. It's really great. I mean, everybody was talking about the purple Aja for a long time, but that it was only one person surprises me, and that she was so assiduous in her research that she lived up to a brown perfectly with it. Actually, that it's Varen in general. You can go back and you can read through and you can see that Robert Jordan knew the role she was going to play from the moment he introduced her as a character. I love that. Also, like 6 books ago, he introduces an Aes Sedai by just referencing that Cadsuane asked for something for her while she's sitting in a room, and that's the way you find out that an Aes Sedai was in the room at all. It was a way that he tried to introduce a new character. I think it was Sarian or something like that. But, it didn't work all that well. People just got left wondering who that was. And I don't like Andral. If I've not told you that yet, I don't like Andral. He has too many kooky, wacky, fun things that make him an interesting character. It's just... Brandon Sanderson knows how to write quirky. He took a character who was existing and he gave them all the quirky backstory stuff. And I don't know why, but even though Andral does a lot of cool feats, they don't feel earned by his character. He feels underdeveloped, and it feels to me like giving him some quirky new backstory thing that Pavara learns about him every time that they talk about Andral, something different and exotic and exciting that he did in his life, doesn't feel like it is quite fitting for the Wheel of Time universe. This one's an 8.5, or maybe that happens in Towers of Midnight. This one's an 8.5. Y'all, have a good evening. I'll see you tomorrow. And we got to get ready for the premiere.